Max Scherzer has signed with the Toronto Blue Jays. We're going to break it all down right here.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays for another live stream because there is another signing, and it is a major signing in Toronto Blue Jays land. A lot of rumors about this guy, lots of talks. The initial thought was Pete Alonso was going to have to sign first, but that is not the case. Max Scherzer has signed with the Toronto Blue Jays on a one-year, $15.5 million deal. Completely rebrands this entire rotation. Something that I've been saying this entire offseason, the Toronto Blue Jays need to go and address this starting rotation. It needs more depth. If there is one injury, one player does not go and pitch up to expectations, it's not going to look good. They go out and they sign Max Scherzer to that $15.5 million deal. Justin Verlander gets $15 million. Max Scherzer gets $15.5 million. Another good move by Ross Atkins, and just showing that he is confident in this baseball team. He wants to have a winning baseball team and a competitive baseball team in 2025 to try to rebrand things and completely turn around from how they were in 2024. Just looking at this starting rotation now, it is going to be a starting rotation to look out for, and it completely vaults the Toronto Blue Jays into being a even more competitive team than they would have been without this signing. You go with Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, Max Scherzer throwing in for me right now as third, probably can move up to number 2 over Jose Barrios. Then you still have Chris Bassett, you have Bowden Francis. And the best part about this signing is that now you have that 5-man rotation. You can move Yariel Rodriguez over to that bullpen, be that long reliever, and kind of build this whole thing and put it together as one big piece of this puzzle. It's something to get very excited about. Going down, looking at the bullpen now, you have Jeff Hoffman, you have Yimi Garcia, you have Chad Green, you have Eric Swanson, you're going to have Nick Sandlin, you have Brendan Little, you're going to have Yariel Rodriguez in that bullpen as well. This is something that Toronto Blue Jays fans can get very excited for. We were talking about at the start of this offseason, we were saying, is Ross Atkins going to go all in? Is Ross Atkins going to have this brief and rough outline of how much he can spend this offseason? Doesn't really look like there is any number that Ross Atkins is looking for. Doesn't look like that he cares about the luxury tax. Doesn't look like he cares about AAV or the amount of money the Toronto Blue Jays are going to spend. We are all in, and it feels good right now, especially with the way this offseason started. Braden, initial thoughts on this Max Scherzer signing?
Holy moly, man. You know, I said it. I might be the GOAT at calling this stuff. I said on last episode, I said within the week and a half, something's happening. Scherzer and Alonso's deals will be done. If it goes the Jays' way, if it doesn't, here we are. The Toronto Blue Jays get Max Scherzer. This is going to be absolutely electric to see Max Scherzer in a Toronto Blue Jays uniform. I am over the moon right now. I said probably a starter. I think that's going to be it. I know we see some comments already saying, now does an Alonso move follow this up? I don't know about that, but I think with what this organization has been able to do so far, I think you have to be over the moon happy with everything that they've accomplished this offseason. Everything that we've asked for has now been done. They got the second baseman, not a bad option, but a bat option, but a defensive option. They get their right fielder in Anthony Santander, a guy that I was calling for. They get their starting pitcher. They get their bullpen upgrades. They really have covered all of the bases we've asked them to. So big hat tips to Ross Atkins and this organization. As much as I know we were, all calling for heads, look what happens when the fans' voices are finally heard and the Blue Jays realize that they have to do something. These big moves happen. Whoever thought in their wildest dreams that Max Scherzer would eventually be a Toronto Blue Jay, that Anthony Santander would one day be a Toronto Blue Jay? Just a wild time we're living in, sort of here in Blue Jays land.
Even just looking at a month and a half ago, we were thinking, hey, is this team going to rebuild? Are they going to go all in this offseason? Is this just going to be a moot point with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette going into contract years? Again, there still is uncertainty beyond 2025, but screw that at this point. Who cares beyond what happens beyond 2025? Because 2025 is here, and this is going to be a very fun year for the Toronto Blue Jays. You can have say a playoff series happens. Again, maybe we're getting a little bit too optimistic here with this Max Scherzer signing, but in a sense where they do get there, you roll out Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, and Max Scherzer, and then you have Chris Bassett or Bowden Francis. Maybe Bowden Francis takes that extra step, and maybe he makes his way into that playoff rotation. that's something you got to be very confident in. Again, with Yari Rodriguez in the bullpen, if there is some injuries that happen, which, I mean, it's baseball, things are bound to happen. You can slide Yari Rodriguez in there. And then you have another guy who was a Cy Young candidate back in 2022. Kind of does feel like forever ago, but Alek Manoah is going to be coming back as well sometime in July or August. So that is almost like a free trade deadline acquisition. And you know that if the Toronto Blue Jays are in a position to compete, in a position to contend for a playoff spot, they're going to be buying at this trade deadline. They're going to move on from some of these prospects and probably get another power bat at that deadline to add to this lineup. And again, just you look at any sort of facet now on this team. Like, you got to feel a whole lot better about the bullpen now with Yari Rodriguez in there, obviously Nick Sandlin and Jeff Hoffman. And then with the lineup, you get a good year from Bo Bichette, who we were going to do our Friday episode on. No, it looks like we're going to be talking about Max Scherzer, which is more than fine with us. But you have a good year from Bo Bichette. You have a good year from Santander. You have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Hopefully you get some steps from guys like Alejandro Kirk, Will Wagner, Elvis Martinez, some of these younger guys. Andres Jimenez maybe has a bounce-back season. In December, we were thinking about this team. We were like, oh, this might be a very long season to watch. There might not be a lot of things to get excited about in Toronto Blue Jays land. But boy, were we wrong. And I'll give it Ross Atkins his credit now. It might be because his job security is on the line. It might be because there's no safety net anymore and he had to go all in the season. But at the end of the day, he did make these moves. He did go all in, and he finally landed some major free agents when you're looking at Anthony Santander and Max Scherzer. Massive signing. Will be very fun to watch Max Scherzer in a Blue Jays uniform.
Yeah, so full details have just come out. So it's pending a physical, obviously, $15.5 million, 1-year contract. That is now 100% confirmed. So it first came from John Hyman, then Jeff Passan just confirmed it, and then now Shai Davidi has as well. So this is full on a go. Thank goodness we didn't, pull the trigger too early, but it was popping off pretty quickly there. Carter, yeah, to me this is a statement year for this organization, and I think everybody knew that. I think we were wondering if it was going to happen. Obviously, looking back over this entire offseason, the ups and the downs, it was a lot of highs and a lot of lows this offseason about what we thought about this organization and about what this team could be. Now, Carter, where do you think this team could possibly finish with the moves they have right now? Again, I don't want to say, too much past this, because at this point, this is the team. I don't necessarily personally expect there to be another move. I know a lot of people are saying that they need another bat. You're probably not wrong that we would like another bat, but I don't think you can take anything away from this organization with what they've done. So, Carter, again, early prediction here. Now with the Scherzer signing, with everything that just happened, does this team give you a lot more hope for a decent, at least a playoff spot?
Absolutely, it does. We talked about the AL East and just the AL in general a couple episodes ago. The New York Yankees, still a scary team. The Baltimore Orioles going to be a good team. You still the Boston Red Sox in there. So the AL East still going to be a tough division no matter which way you look at it. The Rays get Ha-Seong Kim. Good signing, but does that really move the needle for me to being scared of the Tampa Bay Rays? The Tampa Bay Rays are usually like a weird series for the Toronto Blue Jays to play. It seems like they always give them a run for their money in those series. But looking at just other teams in the AL, like the Cleveland Guardians, Minnesota Twins, one of those teams, probably the Guardians is winning that division. And then you look at the Astros, the Mariners haven't really done a whole lot. They still have very good pitching, so they'll be in the running. Maybe the Texas Rangers. So you're only going to have to beat out one or two of those teams. And looking at the Blue Jays starting rotation compared to a lot of those teams, probably a top 3, top 4 rotation in the AL now. The lineup, again, some people are going to say Pete Alonso is still an option. Alex Bregman, which there are rumors have been picking up a little bit towards Alex Bregman. I don't know if this signing kind of puts them out of contention for those type of players, because Pete Alonso is going to have a minimum of a $25 million AAV. Alex Bregman, from what I've seen, is probably going to be even higher at that $30 million AAV. And I'm not a big fan of Alex Bregman. I was in on him earlier in the offseason. Then I kind of saw the 6-year term that he's looking for. Not exactly a guy that I want to sign a 6-year deal. There still is the option to go out for Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman, but I think it is going to be a lower tier signing. But even if they don't add to this lineup now, I think you gotta take some chances on some of your younger guys. So you go out and get a Pete Alonso, like Will Wagner or Elvis Martinez, they're probably not playing at least regular minutes on this MLB team. Again, would you want Pete Alonso over Will Wagner or Elvis Martinez? Probably. But at the end of the day, if you get strides from Will Wagner, you get strides from Elvis Martinez, you're almost going to be in a better spot if those two play good compared to having Pete Alonso on a 3-year deal, because you have a little bit more of a future. There's a little bit more to get excited about with the Toronto Blue Jays, and you get some of these younger guys starting to play very good baseball. That's more incentive for guys like Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to sign contract extensions in Toronto.
Yeah, Carter, we just got a comment here asking about a leadoff hitter. Does this team still need a leadoff hitter, or as of right now, who is that leadoff hitter for you personally?
They do need a leadoff hitter, but who are you gonna go and get as that leadoff hitter? Maybe like a Tommy Pham. But again, when you look at the Toronto Blue Jays, you look at kind of the locker room and how close knit these guys are. I don't think you want to throw Tommy Pham into that, and kind of not the best locker room presence. You don't want to throw things askew. Right now, unfortunately, I don't love this, but I think this is going to be what they roll out on opening day. I think it's going to be George Springer. Again, it can't get worse than last year, right? With George Springer, he is like second in the MLB all time with leadoff home runs. Is that exactly what you want from your leadoff hitter? Absolutely, you want a leadoff home run every single time. Is that realistic? Probably not. Andres Gimenez would be another guy that could be over there. Again, you got to get his OBP or on base up. You got to expect him to have a better year than he did, obviously, last season. And then the other option for me, if he takes these massive steps, would be a Will Wagner. Don't see that happening right at the start of the season. But out of those three, probably the favorite is George Springer. But if you get those massive strides from Will Wagner, more of a slap hitter, a guy that can hit line drives, that would be one of my favorites to land in that position. But I think overall, if we're talking about it right now and how I think it's going to transpire through spring training, I think it's a lot of pressure to put on a guy like Will Wagner that only has 25 games under his belt. So I think they're going to lean towards George Springer.
Yeah, I think it'll be George Springer too. No, Will Wagner has been my guy. I think he has the qualifications and the presence of a leadoff hitter, the way he swings the bat. To me, I could see this happening closer to maybe just before the deadline. I could see them, so slowly transitioning him into that role for a playoff scenario. Again, a guy with not a lot of experience. Maybe that's not necessarily what you want to do for the playoffs. But I think that all comes down to how George Springer performs early in the year. I don't think George Springer is going to be the end-all, be-all of a leadoff hitter that you want. I think we're all well aware of that. But this organization seems to want to keep him there. So we'll see what happens closer to the start of the year. Carter, just before we do anything else here, I just want to quickly hit this ad as well. Any last thoughts before I sort of get into that? And then we'll come back quickly.
No, we'll break down some more of Max Scherzer's stats. Maybe we'll break down what the Toronto Blue Jays lineup could look like in spring training. Do we think there's going to be any moves? So much more to talk about. We're going to break that down after this short break.
Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, two teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every playoff more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it even easier to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. I always talk about FanDuel, how much I enjoy using it. I'm probably going to be betting way too much money on the Jays this year, and I'll be doing it with FanDuel. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get it started. Bet just $5, and you will win. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the Super Bowl. Carter welcoming back in here. All right, Max Scherzer, back to him. Had to get the ad break out of the way there for you guys. What are you guys thinking? Leave us some comments. Let us know, how do you feel about Max Scherzer? Obviously an older guy, but I think for me, Carter still has the making. I think this 1-year deal is something that's perfect because you're going to have to go and probably transition into somebody else, somebody younger in the following years. I think getting him on a 1-year deal is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it's exactly what the Toronto Blue Jays want, especially when you have that starting pitching class next year. Obviously, with Dylan Cease, we talked about Michael King on the last episode. Zach Wheeler will be another option. So if you want a top of the line starting pitcher option, there will be guys down the line, especially when you have Chris Bassett and then you'll have Max Scherzer coming off the books. That opens up about $36 million. That is more than enough to sign a number one starter in this rotation. So I think in regards to term, with what Max Scherzer probably wants and what the Toronto Blue Jays want, they are going all in to compete this year. It's not exactly certain after 2025. So does Max Scherzer want to be a part of his rebuild for maybe his last year of his MLB career? Probably not. So I think it is a good move on the Max Scherzer front as well. One thing that people might be a little bit concerned about regarding Max Scherzer is that he did have an injury last year, only threw 43 innings. I don't think this is necessarily a problem. He had a long time to recover. Again, he is 40 years old, so maybe you got to think that there might be a little bit more fatigue, especially with Max Scherzer, with his longevity in his career. He's thrown for over 15 years in the MLB. So there is that sense. But again, you have all the veteran presence, you have the experience. And now if somehow Max Scherzer does go down, you got to knock on wood. Hopefully that does not happen. But if there is an injury in the starting rotation, you still have Yariel Rodriguez, you have Alek Manoah coming back down the line. So this gives them a lot more depth. And that was the biggest thing that I was was harping on this offseason is that if you had anything to go wrong, whether it's performance or injury, you don't really have a lot of other options. This way, if Max Scherzer pitches like Max Scherzer has even the last 3 seasons, going to be a guy that can probably throw 150 innings, have around a 3.50 ERA, be a very solid guy in the middle of the rotation. As I expect right now, probably going to be the number 3 guy, at least to start off the season. Maybe things do change depending on performances, things like that as we go through the season. But I'm very excited to see Max Scherzer, especially how dominant that he has been throughout his career. And he brings that winning mentality, has won multiple World Series as well. So it's not a bad guy whatsoever to have in your starting rotation. Kind of teach these younger guys, whether it's starting pitchers, whether it's relievers, or just even players that are playing in the MLB, whether it's, again, Will Wagner's, the Elvis Martinez's, the Joey Loperfitos, the Davis Schneiders, you name it. You can help those guys if they go through some struggles and just give a different perspective for some of these pitchers on the Toronto Blue Jays.
Carter, when we were talking about signing a starting pitcher, I didn't think they were going to go and get a big fish. I thought that time was past. I thought it was going to be, some whatever 5th starter that was going to come in just so that they could put Yariel in the bullpen. This is massive. I think this can be, like you said earlier in this live stream here, is that Max Scherzer realistically is probably one of your playoff pitchers, right? You probably have your Kevin Gausman, your Jose Barrios, and your Max Scherzer, and that's not bringing into consideration what could be Alek Manoah as well. So again, a lot of options for this team now. Just going through the comments here, Carter. Logan says Ernie Clement at leadoff. That's a possibility as well. Again, gonna have to wait and see. I think right now you have to think it's going to be George Springer, as much as that is brutal for probably all of us to think about with this. But at least there's an all-star cast behind him right now, right? With Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Anthony Santander, probably hitting 4 in this lineup. And another another comment. This has to mean that we are getting either Pete or Bregman. I don't necessarily believe that this is a sign of things to come. I think this signing is what it is. Yes, I know that there was some conversation on Scherzer signing where Pete was going to sign. That was sort of the conversation going on. I don't necessarily know that's the case. So I wouldn't hang my hat on the Blue Jays getting another bat. Again, would love it if they did. I don't necessarily believe that this is a future prediction moment here.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I want it to be, like, I think they'll still be in talks with Pete Alonso, but we kind of said on the episodes throughout this week that if he would have if you wanted to sign with the Toronto Blue Jays with their offer on the table, he probably would have done that already. It seems like that Scott Boras and Pete Alonso are holding out, using the Toronto Blue Jays as leverage, as we've seen multiple times before, and it seems like he does want to be a New York Met. As for Alex Bregman, if you could get that Pete Alonso type deal where it's a 3-year deal, I think Ross Atkins is pulling the trigger on that immediately. I don't think there's any questions asked whatsoever. The problem is where you get to this 5-6 year term with Alex Bregman, that it might not age as well as you want it to. So again, at this point, do you necessarily care if that contract's going to age poorly? Depends how fully in on this offseason that you are in and on the 2025 team. Because you add Alex Bregman or Pete Alonso to this lineup. I mean, this team skyrockets from 4th or 5th in the AL East to maybe an AL East contender, maybe even getting a bye in the first round of the playoffs, which would be a very fun thing to see. Toronto Blue Jays haven't won the division in a very long time. 2015 was the last time. Does this make them an option to do that? Possibly. You got to have some pretty good years from some other guys. If you had Alex Bregman, you had Pete Alonso, I think they might even emerge as the favorite to land the AL East, as the winner of the AL East. But just some other things I wanted to go into regarding Max Scherzer is this guy's like 40 years old. He still has some unbelievable stuff. The chase percentage, the chase rate for some of his pitches, absolutely ridiculous. 99th percentile at 36.4%, has a whip percentage of 29.2%. I said that when we did our Max Scherzer episode. If he's still missing bats, if he's getting guys to swing, like as we used to use the MLB The Show term, swinging the garden hose out there, you absolutely love to see a pitcher make great hitters, which pretty much every MLB hitter is. You got to be a good hitter to get to the MLB for the most part. If you're making them swing at bad pitches, you're making them look silly at the plate, you're still clearly a good pitcher. So I don't think there is a talent concern with Max Scherzer. I don't think there's any fatigue whatsoever. I think we're going to get Max Scherzer how he has been the last 3-4 seasons. So it's something that we can be very excited for and just adds a ton of depth, obviously, to the starting rotation.
I'm really going to be interested to see how he meshes with the rest of these guys, right? Max Scherzer, for all intents and purposes, is an absolute lunatic on the mound, right? If you've watched baseball for a number of years, you know how he's just a dog on the mound. Talk about Chris Bassett being the hound on the mound. Max Scherzer is something else. That guy is a rabid dog on the mound. And I really like that energy. I've always liked Scherzer for that. His want to win probably trumps most other players in the game. He is a guy that brings winning mentality. I know that, there was some other guys like that used to play for the Toronto Blue Jays. My favorite player, Josh Donaldson, same sort of thing. It was winning above all else was his sort of mentality. And Max Scherzer is a guy that brings that in spades. So I'm really pumped about this. And Carter, you're right. I don't know how worried I am necessarily about the fall off with Max Scherzer because we've seen him do it time and time again. Yes, we might see the velocity dip here and there. I think that is a good chance. And if it's something that you can probably bet on happening, but that's some of these older guys that can throw their off-speed pitches and their breaking pitches so well. That's why a lot of these pitchers are able to last so long in this game in comparison to some of the younger guys where it's all velocity. Max Scherzer's found a way to keep his career alive and going. And I think that that's why this is such a good signing for the Blue Jays. They're not going to chase some, heat throwing pitcher. They're getting a guy that's done it before and that can still do it, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I got a comment that I want to address as well. Does this Max Scherzer signing maybe possibly lead to a trade for Luis Robert Jr.? As much as I would love to say that, I would love to have Luis Robert Jr. on our baseball team. There's multiple facets that go into this. One, he was kind of a bum last year, was not very good. But mind you, you're playing for the Chicago White Sox. Do you have a lot of incentive to play your best baseball? Probably not that fun from a morale standpoint on that baseball team. Also, he has one of the best contracts in all of baseball. 6 years, $50 million under a $10 million AAV for a guy like Luis Robert Jr. Again, probably not a guy that they're going to want to trade. And if they do trade, it's going to be an absolute boatload. And as we've talked about on the podcast multiple times before, Toronto Blue Jays do not have a very good prospect system. If they were going to shop Luis Robert Jr., they probably would go to the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Boston Red Sox. They'd go to some of these teams with major, very good prospect systems, deeper prospect systems, and guys that have, or teams that have a lot of these top 100 MLB prospects. So as much as I would absolutely love to see this, and maybe the Toronto Blue Jays should be calling the Chicago White Sox, I don't necessarily see this as being realistic.
I think if that was going to happen, I think we would have seen it way earlier in this offseason for a big sort of blockbuster trade that would have been. I don't think this close to the season we're going to see a big time trade. I just can't see it. I don't think it's in the cards. Again, love them, but I can't see it happening now. I think those moves would have been done. I think what you have to hope for, if you're still hoping that they get pieces, you have to hope that it's Pete Alonso or Alex Bregman. Even though I'm pretty certain in my own head, Carter, that this is it. I think that this is their final move. I maybe could see, hot take, a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. extension. I think that is going to be the topic of conversation now in Blue Jays land. I think if you look, I think there's going to be some more reports. I think the Blue Jays are going to try to give him the bag before the spring training because that was his time frame. He didn't want to talk about it during the year. I think there's going to be a big push now for that extension to happen with Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Well, and that's the last infinity stone of the offseason. If they get a starting pitcher, they get their corner outfielder, they add to the bullpen, and they get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. on an extension. I don't think you can hate anything that Ross Atkins has done this offseason. Obviously, if you're really nitpicking, you probably want Bo Bichette on an extension as well. We'll break down how likely that is and just what the contract will look like. All the stuff regarding Bo Bichette on a future episode, probably Monday if nothing else comes out. But I think you are right with this probably being done. Just looking at the free agents available, you got your backup catcher in Christian Bethancourt. I think he does beat out Tyler Heineman. Again, the only two that maybe do happen is your Alex Bregman and your Pete Alonso. Other than that, I think you're better off with rolling out Ernie Clement, who was a very good hitter last year. You're really high on guys like Joey Loperfido, Will Wagner, or Elvis Martinez. So you want to get these guys some playing time. There's already not that much to go around to begin with. This team still does need a DH, or maybe that is Anthony Santander. So in other words, if Santander's DHing, you need the corner outfielder. If he's playing the corner outfielder, you need a DH. You got Andres Gimenez locked in at two-bag. You got Bo Bichette locked in as your shortstop. Vladdy is obviously your first baseman. So what does that leave? That leaves, we'll say that Santander is playing right field. So that leaves a DH and a third baseman. You have Will Wagner, you have Ernie Clement obviously there as well. Maybe you got Davis Schneider going into the mix there, and then Elvis Martinez. Those are my four that are probably competing there to start the season. Then you got Joey Lopervito, obviously, with Dalton Varsho being out. He's probably going to start either in center field or a corner outfield position at the start of the year. So it's already pretty congested when you look at a lot of these positions. Maybe you want to throw Nathan Lucas in there. At this point, I'm probably not, but he has been good with the opportunity that he has been given with the Toronto Blue Jays. So if you're going to go out and make a signing, you might as well make an absolute massive splash and get that Pete Alonso, get that Alex Bregman, because you could go and you could have like a Jason Hayward. You could go add, I don't know, like a middle infielder. But what's really the point of doing that when you got some younger guys that you want to get the playing time in the MLB anyway?
Yeah, just a comment here. I think it's hilarious because it's what you brought up early in the episode. I'm stoked. How about Max Scherzer coaching guys like Bowden and Manoah all year? My God, we got some dogs on this team. Exactly, Chuck. That's one of the biggest components for me here is getting a guy like Max Scherzer in with some of your young guys. I think that's massive. And I think I've always said this. This is the mindset of a guy that I love. I love a guy that wants to win above anything else. And Max Scherzer is absolutely that guy. And if he can instill some of that into some of this young talent on this team, I think that's absolutely huge. Let us know what you guys think about Max Scherzer. This is a player as well. It's cool to get your guys' opinions. Again, I'm a little biased because he's the, he brings the energy to the diamond that I love and that I've, seen in my favorite players sort of along the way. So let us know what you guys think about Max Scherzer and what he can do for this team as well. Let us know in the comments here. Who you think is going to be the next move? If you think there will be a next move, is it the Vladdy extension? Is it the Pete Alonso or the Alex Bregman? Will there be a trade? Let us know what you guys are thinking. We always want to hear from you guys. Carter, any other thoughts from you? Logan just says, this might be my last thing before I send it back to you. They have 2 weeks to extend Vladdy. I agree. It's likely the only move left. For me, that's probably the last move. I think that, like Carter said, the Infinity Stone, not a big Marvel guy, but he knows that reference. I do like that. I think the Vladdy thing is the biggest thing. I think for this organization, locking down Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has to be your number one goal. You've secured this year and what this year can look like. I think it has to be the move you're looking for.
I think going into this offseason, I would rather have a Vladdy extension over a Santander signing, over a Jeff Hoffman signing, over a Max Scherzer signing. Debatably, all three of them combined, you'd rather have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. staying with the Toronto Blue Jays. As much as I do want this guy to be a Blue Jay for life, and that still is definitely a possibility. I'm not completely dismissing that. The part that I am dismissing, unfortunately, as much as I still want this to happen, I don't think he is going to sign before spring training. And it's because why would you if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? You have all the leverage in the world right now. You saw Juan Soto get paid the highest contract in MLB history. When you look at the first base position next season, not a lot of competition there. He will be one of the headlining free agents once again. So if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in a contract year, even if Ross Atkins does fork up the $475 million, if you're betting on yourself, if you think you're going to have a year similar to last season or maybe even slightly better than last season, that price tag is only going to go up. It's only going to go over $500 million, $550, might even reach $600 million. And if you're Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and you want a payday, whether that is from the Toronto Blue Jays, which he has said he wants to remain a Toronto Blue Jay for his life, but if he gets paid for the New York Yankees, the Chicago Cubs, another team that would be in, there's multiple teams that will be in on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next season. If you're looking at it from a financial standpoint, it makes nothing but sense to wait until next season, even if you are going to re-sign with the Toronto Blue Jays, to get that extra money on a contract.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a fair assessment. I think that's what everybody's thinking is going to happen. My only caveat to that is that he has put out what he wants, what he expected from the Toronto Blue Jays. And if they can go up and just say, okay, you know what, we're all in, we've got the pieces we want for this season, but we need to lock this down for the futures, I think it's not a problem that you say, here's $450 million, call it a day, handshake deal, good to go, and then you start the season off, everybody on the right foot. I think that is the big move here that still could be made. Again, be great to get Pete Alonso. Be great to get Alex Bregman. It's just getting to the point in this offseason that I just don't know how likely that is. I could realistically see Pete Alonso starting spring training with still no deal being made. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Make sure you guys tune into tomorrow's episode as well. We're going to do a deep dive on Max Scherzer, what he's done, what he can still do. We've sort of done deep dives in him before, but now that he signed with the Blue Jays, what does this mean going forward? After a little time to digest all the information, we'll make sure you guys leave your comments and everything on this post, or this video, live stream, whatever it is, so that we make sure we can take all those into consideration for tomorrow's videos and see how the fans are feeling. Carter, anything else before we pretty much call it? Again, if you guys got comments, keep doing them, but anything final from you, Carter?
Like I saw in the comment section, here we go. The season starts right now. This is something to get excited for. The Toronto Blue Jays should be a competitive baseball team if everything does according to plan. Even if they do have some missteps, which will happen in the MLB season, you'll have some guys that will underperform. You'll have some guys that will hopefully overperform, and hopefully we get more overperformances than underperformances, as we had pretty much every single underperformance that you could possibly have for the Toronto Blue Jays in 2024. So it looks like there are bright skies ahead. We got to get all in on this team, leave the negativity in 2024, leave the negativity in January. All seas ahead. Just go look forward, look at this division, look for hopefully a playoff berth, and hopefully actually some playoff wins for the first time in a long time. I want to say thank you guys for watching. The likes, comments, everything recently has been appreciated. We have noticed that about 77% of you guys are not subscribed. With all the new people coming in, checking out the channel. If you guys are coming back, you like what you are seeing, feel free to subscribe and also ring the bell. It'll let you know if we do live streams like this at all. Maybe there'll be a big trade coming in the offseason. We think it's probably done, but who knows with the Toronto Blue Jays where Ross Atkins is at right now. Just want to say thank you guys for watching, and be sure to tune in to the podcast tomorrow.